Yo guys, welcome to The Last Lap. Don't forget to drop a lovely, juicy 5-star rating if you're watching on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Hope you enjoy, and let's get into it. We might not have any free practice sessions anymore anyway, by the sounds of it. We've heard...
No more test drivers, man.
No
more Nick De Vries driving every car under the sun.
Look, I mean, for anyone who doesn't know, there's been quotes from Stefano Domenicali, who's, well, this would be an FIA decision as far as I'm aware. It wouldn't actually be an F1 decision. Yeah. Talking about potentially can in practice, which hasn't gone down well online.
I just find the image so funny. Can you imagine just teams just rocking up and just qualifying, boom, straight in?
Well, drivers have already complained about, like, you know, you don't get it in any other sport where, like, you're not allowed to practice. You just go straight into competitive games. But, yeah, I mean, I guess the theory is that practice is only exciting if you're really engaged, and they want to make each session more kind of sellable. But also, the way I see it is that practice is you know, if you want a cheap bit of F1 experience, the day to go is Friday. Yeah. Because it's not competitive running, but you're still seeing cars on track. And I still think, like, I hope practice doesn't go anywhere. And also, I mean, it's 3 sessions for you to talk as well, Alex.
Well, I mean, that's what the world's been lacking.
Warm up
making noise into a microphone. Yeah.
Less words for Jakes. Yeah. I'm not having
I see what you're saying about that. I'm a little bit astonished by the reaction for practice. I got to say, I didn't think it was... I started watching in the late 90s as a kid when you got quali and the race. But there's a whole generation now who's got used to Friday. It's on in the background, much how I consume Test cricket. It's on in the background all day. You're enjoying it. It's totally different. I mean, that's the strange thing about doing testing, where it's effectively 3 days of the practice broadcast, and then going into Bahrain, which is always one of the more highest overtaking stats of the year. In that you're it's a different thing. It's much more like this. You know, there could be a practice session going on in the background, and we might be talking about it, and it's fine. And then when there's a push lap, when there's a soft tire run, you're going to cover that off. You might have the ex-driver talk around it, and then you're back to this again. Yeah. You're back to the discussion. So I think that was quite interesting. But yeah, I think that I'd be amazed in 5 years' time. I've got no inside knowledge on this at all, but I'd be amazed in 5 years' time if we still had 3 practice sessions.
Yeah, I think the way we're going, there's not going to be 3.
I don't think there's going to be any way in the future that length of time is going to be allowed to the drivers. But they're going to need something at the weekend to corroborate what they've seen in the sim, what the data says. So it's never going to be fully eradicated.
Well, we've got, what is it?
1 practice session, sprint, qualifying race.
I was about to say.
No, sorry, that's the wrong way round. Qualifying.
Yeah, what's this new version?
Right. No, okay, fine. I'll roll with it. Yeah.
Sprint. And then we're going.
Just keep sprinting.
Practice on the Monday afterwards.
Well, because we've got, is it 6 sprints this year? Yeah. I think, 6. I do feel like that is going to become the more prevalent. It will get to half, I think, eventually.
Well, it becomes that thing of, would you rather watch a practice session or a sprint race?
Yeah.
And you're always going to want to see the lights go out.
Definitely. Yeah. It's competitive running on Friday, Saturday and Sunday, not just Saturday, Sunday. Yeah. And the viewing figures spoke for themselves. I mean, I saw some, I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was significantly higher because... And yes, it's a shame. I get the counter argument. A lot of people work on Fridays and can't necessarily catch qualifying, which is a huge part of. It's such a. I love qualifying. Like, I think we've got a great format. I also think we should do one shot. I would love to see one shot.
That's interesting. Why the appeal of one shot? Because I'm old enough to remember one shot qualifying.
Yeah, and the thing is, the broadcast is so different these days.
That's true.
They could, when they do the push lap in testing and they
do
engine up,
audio
call it. That's it. With the coverage you get, it's like, I swear the last 2 qualifying sessions, Albon's gone off on his own and got like a full lap. I bet the Rilton have loved that.
The old Minardi trick.
Yes.
Quick, out you go, boys.
Satisfy the sponsors, let's have it.
Yeah, but did they put no fuel in it as well? So they'd go and fight at the front.
Frost and Minardi putting,
Well, they do, I guess, one shot in IndyCar for the Indy 500. and it feels like a bit of a spectacle when they do that. So
I
I feel like
think-
there's
I think
definitely
at certain
potential
tracks-
for it.
I would love to see. I'm pitching this to you, Alex. You got connections, right?
I have no power.
You've got so many connections.
Alex has all the power
You can
in
make
this
it
decision,
happen.
ladies and gentlemen.
Monaco, 1 shot, and mandate a 2-stop. Fix Monaco.
Take a 2-stop.
Because everyone
Things
shunts
suggested
and
for
ruins everyone
Monaco
else's.
is an entirely separate pod. I'd have him run every tyre compound.
Oh, yeah, let's hear
I'd have a
everything.
different technical package for that race. It would, it's an outlier. Let's chuck everything at it. Yeah, 1 shot. It effectively is already though, isn't it? You get 2 goes in that quali session.
Yeah, but someone shunts and it ruins your lap. Whereas in 1 shot,
If you shunt, it ruins your lap.
Yeah,
it only ruins your lap.
Yeah,
Because I feel
yeah.
like that's happened multiple.
If we get another driver crashing at the end of Monaco and bringing out a red flag, they will be adopting the if you bring out the red flag, your time gets deleted.
Yeah.
If it happens,
I
again,
think so,
I think
yeah.
there's like 1 chance left for someone to pull.
Yeah,
the
we
trigger.
can't. Yeah, if we did 1 shot though, we can't have another Nico Rosberg.
No.
Mirror gate. That's the only thing.
No.
That was
I did enjoy
box
that.
office.
Yeah, that started the whole.
Or
beef.
Schumacher when it's like, oh no.
Oh, why?
whoops.
You see that wasn't. You see that what he didn't sell it enough. He didn't sell it enough. It was too obvious he'd parked up at Rascal.
No,
Good
because
enough acting.
I think that
Rosberg sold it.
Yeah, he really did.
I
The little wiggle as he locked up. Sorry, go.
it didn't.
He's retired now. We can say
Yeah,
that. It's absolutely nonsense, Nico.
No, I think I don't know if the fan base is coming. Again, it's one of them things that I just think over time people will just adjust and get used to it. And I do think competitive running on 3 days is inevitable as far as I'm concerned. But
Yeah.
shall we have a little talk about the teams? Because there's been a few interesting kind of dynamics. I'll talk briefly about Mercedes, actually.
Yeah.
We obviously, they've been talking about big upgrades coming to their car. I know Toto Wolff's been quoted saying 6 to 12 months until, that's how far behind they feel like they are from Red Bull at the moment.
Yeah.
And we're seeing, I think, a dynamic with George and Lewis where it's very different to the Bottas-Hamilton dynamic,
Oh,
as
yeah,
far as I'm
massively,
concerned.
yeah.
Because George is very much like you were saying, he won F2 convincingly ahead of Lando, ahead of Alex. He's the real deal. Last weekend there was Lewis? Lewis was on the medium behind George. There's certainly a degree of George isn't just going to get out of the way of Lewis. I think that's now clear as day. I think we saw that at Zandvoort, particularly last year.
Yeah.
How does Toto manage that situation? Because you've got 7-time world champion, arguably the greatest of all time, George Russell, he's brought in to be the future of that team. This is a difficult transitional period, not just in the car, but
and
the team as
present
well.
coming together, and he has PTSD about the Nico Lewis situation.
Yeah, right. No,
Fair point.
right. No, because Toto inherited that situation. Like, what does Toto do going forward?
It's less of a problem for him if the car continues to be off the pace. The moment the
correct.
car is
Oh yeah.
on the pace, Brazil last year was. You talk about sweating for your first Grand Prix victory. You've got a 7-time world champion over your shoulder, and they must have been praying that Lewis is way too wise for this at this stage of his career, but they must have been praying no late lunges into turn 1, because you can come from, as he's shown us in his career, he's come from miles back in that corner in the park. And, trying to keep the win record in every season going, that ludicrous win record he had. And there wasn't a hint of it. They worked very well together. You put it at the sharp end, then you are going to have to start to get involved, because I think we'll see this with Checo and Max this year. No team dynamic is happy when the only 2 people who can take the victory in that moment are part of the same team. That said, management, does managing ever work? It didn't work in Red Bull in the past when you had Webber and when you had Vettel, Multi-21 and all of that nonsense. They tried to get Nico and Lewis to stop crashing into each other, but it didn't go particularly successfully, did it? Ultimately, when the adrenaline's
Just
up,
happened more.
when they're 2 of the best drivers in the world and there's a win on the line, I don't think there's anything you can say on the team radio at all.
No.
And even if you've got the stature of Toto Wolff and you've got all those titles, I think you're going to have a hard time calling off the fight.
You need that clear 1-2 dynamic, don't you, to make that work?
You do, but there's no way you can have that at Mercedes, like we've said.
That's the thing.
George is just too good. To be.
And George knows that
Lewis
this is
is
an
Lewis.
opportunity for him. You look in the past, Schumacher, Barrichello, there was that clear 1-2 dynamic. I think, even though Valtteri had some strong starts to the season relative to Lewis.
1-year contract every time for Valtteri. So
Yeah.
very little he could ever do.
Yeah.
The answer was always going to be yes if you fancied coming back next year.
Yeah.
Which was that was a version of the management. That was absolutely a version of the management, because that is a tool that Toto Wolff had available to him. He could have put Valtteri on he was his manager, for goodness sake. Could have put him on a 3-year deal, but just wanted that control that he didn't have with Rosberg. And then electing to get rid of that control by bringing Russell in. But the good thing for them is that they worked together really well last year to make that car a winning car along with the team. I think the deflation for them is that they're back to square one with it.
Yeah. That is the...
And then that's the tough thing. And that's what I was saying, last time. It's like all of that work, especially that Lewis was having to do in developing that car at the start of the season to get to a point where you win in Brazil, 1-2, to then be behind Aston Martin and back where you started again is...
It's just sport, though, isn't it? Like,
it is just
dominance
sport,
never lasts
but
forever.
No.
Never.
I mean,
which is disappointing.
you get dominance in most sport. If you look across the board, you get runs, you get dynasties, but it's absolutely impossible to... I mean, the fact that he nearly got a decade worth of dominance hasn't happened in Formula One before. I doubt it will happen in Formula One again, because of the way the rules will be written and tightened up and altered to make sure it's competitive. So that was a ridiculous run, but eventually it's going to come to an end.
Could we see the FIA intervening with Red Bull? Because right now that package is looking incredibly competent. But then also you look at, for me, it's as much Ferrari doing, it's as much Red Bull doing a good job as it is Mercedes making like no progress, like progress relative race pace wise to last year, in line with everyone else.
Yeah.
And Ferrari seemingly taking a bit of step backwards, because their race pace, like at Saudi this year, was pretty much the same as it was last year, with the track changes taken into account as well. And so, I think we've had 2 races, and it's this 22 race season, but it is very hard to look past Red Bull.